Hey guys, and welcome to the FitPro Social with me, David Kyle.
And me, Ash Burley. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, and welcome to the FitPro Social. First of all, it may sound a little bit echoey. I'm not entirely sure. I'm in a brand new office that has very little furniture in, so it's a little bit. It could be a little bit echoey in here. That's why it also looks a little bit different behind me for anyone that's a regular viewer. So apologies if it is for that. But talking about offices, it leads us quite nicely onto what we're going to be talking about today, which is literally how to keep things moving forward in your business when everything is going to shit. And the reason I think it's linked to offices is because if anyone follows Dave on social media, you'll have noticed that about a week ago, his offices flooded in the lovely storms that we have here, which to me is one of the biggest definitions of everything going to shit. And I think it'd be a really good topic to discuss how you actually deal with that. How do you deal when things aren't going to plan? Or when the unforeseen happens, how do you keep things moving forward in your business so it's not an absolute disaster all around? But before we jump into that, hey Dave, how are we doing? You had a good week?
No, because if you look at the weather for this weekend, it says we've got a red warning here in South Wales. So we're supposed to be moving back into the office a week Monday. But yeah.
Can't see that happening.
Let's see what happens.
Yes, watch this space. Dave's flood watch. Fit for a Legion flood watch.
Nightmare.
Well, I'll tell you, let's just dig into actually what happened then the other week. Because I think I always thought it's been an interesting topic to talk about. We do talk about having systems and processes and staff and all things in place to try and deal with these different eventualities that might happen in your business. But these are things you don't always think about. You don't always think about the fact, okay, there's going to be some massive storm that's going to come in, that's going to flood out your offices. Like you can wake up in the morning. I mean, in this case, we've just been away on holiday. We've both been away together with our partners. We came back.
Just in case anybody was thinking.
They was thinking. It was just us two. We were there. My wife was there and his partner was there. And we came back. Everything seemed good. Dave walks into the office and obviously finds a swimming pool in there, not actually an office anymore. And to compound it, that very week, we also had the FitPro Winter Summit on as well. So obviously, Dave and his team were around trying to plan for that. So let's just talk about that to start. What happened? What was it like? What was that experience like? How did you find out?
Yeah, it was a weird one. We got a text message from one of the other people along the office block, kind of a business a couple of doors down. Text Holly saying, "I think you need to get down here fast. There's water everywhere." Like, oh no, what? So we drove down there. Well, we got as close as we could get because the water, the roads were just completely flooded everywhere. Got to the front door and it was just over the mantle of the front door there. And then within an hour, 2 hours, it was just in the building, ankle height, just slowly creeping its way up. Eventually it stopped at just over ankle height. So everything that was on the floor, gone. So luckily we didn't have any workbooks. Luckily we didn't have any lanyards. Luckily we didn't have anything we needed for the event because otherwise everyone that turned up to the event would have had nothing. And luckily, like nothing is just kept on the floor really. Extension cables, a few bits and bobs, but just one of those crazy times. But I think as bad as these things can be, and I remember a couple of years back, the gym also flooded. So we were in North Wales at that moment in time where Holly's sister Willow went down to the gym just to check on it for us because it would close for 1 or 2 days. And she walked in and the pipe in the kitchen had burst and it was just leaking everywhere. So, yeah, you just have to kind of deal with that situation. Whatever's thrown in front of you, whether it's a client handed in their notice, there's certain things that you can just deal with. I'm just thinking then the worst situation could be like Stripe holding back all of your funds for that month. So if you have a monthly payout with Stripe or PayPal, whoever you use, and they're holding that back from you, that would be a real devastating blow. But usually if it's the gym or the office, clients understand. Like with the gym flooding a couple of years back, clients understood. They knew it was going to take a week or so for the water to kind of leave and replace the floors and stuff. And the same way what we're doing now, clients do get it. So it's never the end of the world. It might feel like it at that moment in time, but
it's never as bad.
Yeah.
I always find with these kind of things, you kind of go through these states. I actually wrote them down as the intro was on, just thinking about these kind of states you go through when apparent disasters happen. And I always have this shock, anger, action, opportunity. And that seems to be the thing that tends to go through my head when they ever happen. Not on purpose. I think when you first kind of hear this thing, you just like, if you're caught off guard, as in like, oh shit, my office is flooded. Oh, you wake up one day, you see that email from Stripe saying it's been held, or I don't know, Facebook account's been hacked, or whatever it is. Now, whatever these situations are, I think the first initial thing is normally shock, because you're like, okay, like shit, what's just happened here? And then I think sometimes you tend to go into a little bit of anger. You normally, it's very natural, I think, to sometimes try and blame something like bloody weather or whatever. Like, why did we move to this particular office? Or it's like, why did I try to use Stripe? I think it's just human for us to have those thoughts in our head for a second. And then maybe for some people it's longer. Maybe sometimes the shock lasts for a long time. Maybe sometimes the anger lasts for a long time. But I think the quicker you can get through the shock, the quicker you can get through the anger, it takes you into that next stage, which is you just got to go and take action and think, okay, how can I deal with this situation? And I think sometimes when you start taking action, when you start really taking stock of that situation, sometimes it's not as bad as you think. You give quite a good example there when you were talking about, okay, well, what's the priority we got at the moment? The priority is we need to service our clients, and we have the FitPro Winter Summit coming up. So there may be the two kind of priorities there. So what have we got in place to go and deal with that? Well, I'm assuming here, but most of our guys can work at home. The computers and laptops and things, they were higher up, so they're not damaged. It's maybe a few plugs, a few things are wet in the office. We can deal with that kind of thing. Okay, the FitPro Summit stuff, it's not damaged, so we can still deal with that kind of thing. So I think sometimes you can start taking stock of that situation and start taking action on actually trying to deal with it. Admittedly, that becomes easier if you've got a team and staff and things like that, and the right systems and stuff in place. But I think you can take stock on it. And then, again, I think we'll go through all these together in a minute. And I think the next thing you can do sometimes, if you think about this, is take opportunity out of that situation. And I'll give you an example using what I thought was an opportunity, which I don't know whether you did this on purpose. I have no idea. But let's just take a look at social media, for example. One of your most, probably the best reaching post I've seen you do in years was the fact you put a picture of you putting sandbags up outside your office, which at the end of the day, you could lead off the back of that and be useful. But the other side of it is the news. Very quickly, you put that social media post up, and then what did that lead to? Somebody saw it, people in the area saw it, the news came down. So yeah, it might not have been positive news, but now more people know about your business. More people know you actually exist because it's been on local news, it's been on BBC Wales and so on. So I think sometimes there can be opportunities to be pulled out of these situations, like even the Stripe example. It might be that Stripe's hold your money out. So maybe you start looking at alternatives and actually find a better, more cost-effective system for your business. So I think there's opportunities. But yeah, I think it may be worth looking at those different things, the shock, anger, action, and opportunity. I think that can come out of apparent disasters.
Yeah, I think getting out of that shock phase is the most crucial part. The longer you linger on that particular one, the longer it's going to take for you to move forward and figure out and suss and overcome and move on and like get better at it. So like if Stripe were to hold your monthly fees, you are going to be pretty angry, you're going to be annoyed, but the longer you dwell on that situation, the shock phase, like you said, the longer it's going to take for you to overcome it. Where if you kind of admit there's literally nothing I can do. So when the water was pouring into the office, I have no way of stopping that. It's totally out of my control. So now I kind of come to the realization, okay, I can't stop the water. What do I need to do? Now I need to try and save as much stuff as possible. Get everything out of there. If Stripe are holding your money, then the next payments that are coming out today, let's get them moved. Can they be PayPal? Can they be bank transfer? Can they be Revolut Pay or whatever you're going to do? Have a look at the next step then, because the longer you're dwelling in it, if you're hating Stripe today because they haven't done it, and tomorrow, and what would it be then? Sunday. But you might have had 5 payments today, 5 payments Saturday, 5 payments Sunday. That's 15 more payments you're not going to get because you were getting frustrated, you were getting annoyed, you were getting angry with Stripe. Where once you kind of take the understanding of there's nothing I can do, I just have to wait for this thing to play out. But while it plays out, I now can be back in control. I can cancel any future payments or reach out to clients and say, can you pay this way or that way? Or what office equipment can I save? Tell a staff to work from home. What needs to happen from there? So yeah, like you say, once you can get through that shock phase, I think everything else starts to open up. Everything starts to become clearer then.
It makes so much sense. It's almost like damage control, isn't it? Like you need to get into that damage control situation first, realize what you can control and what you can't control. I think we've talked about this before on other podcasts about different subjects, about making sure that you can't really worry about the things that are completely out of your control in business anyway. You just try and focus on things that you can control, because otherwise it's just a waste of energy. I guess that's a similar kind of thing here. You look at the situations, what can you control, what can't you control, and you go and deal with it. I think the other side of that, the shock side of it, is shock, if you don't make decisions, can normally lead to danger. And I think in some of the sports and activities I like whitewater kayaking, like climbing, like mountaineering, and you have to make quick decisions sometimes, especially in some of those situations where if you don't make a decision, the outcome could be quite catastrophic. So you sometimes just have to go and make decisions and keep moving. And when you get into shock, when you're caught off guard, that shock slows that decision-making process down. Sometimes what it feels like it does. And the longer you're there, the harder it is, like a deer caught in headlights. So I think it's like, Dave, you're just saying that you have to work hard and go, okay, it's happened. Let's deal with this. Let's tackle this head on and get on with it. Which I think is a good thing in business in general. I think whatever happens, tackle it head on and deal with it. But
you know, on a slightly random topic to this, I was on LinkedIn the other day, and the founder of, I didn't realize he founded both of them, but of Unilad and Lad Bible. He I don't know if he's been diagnosed or however, but he has ADHD, and he did a big post about it, and it was all about people with ADHD. You'll see a lot of them are business owners, and a lot of the people that also have ADHD are quick at reacting to those situations where the normal person will be stuck in that situation and they freeze and they're not sure what to do. They start panicking, they start fluffing their lines, and everything goes wrong. Whereas then people with ADHD actually can assess those situations really quickly. And you were saying, like, you'll see a lot of them will be in the emergency services. A lot of them will be business owners. You see a lot of ADHD people are actually in high pressure jobs because they're the people that can actually deal with those situations the best. They're the ones that react the fastest and react confidently and correctly as well. So slightly off topic, but it's weird how these things kind of show. Yeah,
it is, isn't it? I find that really interesting. I mean, to me, I have ADHD, and I'm pretty sure, and I'm maybe not diagnosed on your side, but I'm pretty sure you probably have as well, the way we are with things sometimes. I just, we have certain traits, put it that way, definitely between us. And I think that does seem to ring true. I think there's so many things where, like for me personally, if pressure's on, if I've really got pressure, like I've got to do something instantly, I seem to get calmer more than the opposite, if you know what I mean. Like, I'm flustered. And Sarah always talks about it all the time. Like, I want to fix something. Like, if there's pressure there, I've got to go and fix it and deal with it. Like, I don't just like, I can't not do that. But if I've got time, like if you say we've got like 3-4 months to do something, no, it will really happen. Until it gets to like 2 days before, or I don't know, on the train down to the summit writing a presentation. Like, I'll do my better work when there's pressure on. So yeah, mate, I think there probably is some truth in that.
And
I think
another one on that, and a lot of the people watching and listening now will probably feel the same situation. When cash flow is good in the business, we're coasting. We're just enjoying business. We're not really panicking. We're not really worrying. We're not making new processes. We're not fine tuning things. But when money suddenly becomes tight, cash flow isn't great. Have you noticed how you suddenly can pull rabbits out of many bags to make the situation work? Just like all of a sudden you suddenly get one person that wants to pay in full for 3 years, and like, where did that come from? But you're like, oh, I'll reach out to a couple of people and offer that. But when cash flow is good, you don't make those same decisions, and it's strange how the world works a bit like that. Yeah.
It is, isn't it? I can remember noticing that a few years ago, definitely with me, especially if cash came in, I was like, oh, okay, I relax a bit more, and I think, okay, maybe I should go and do something about this. I wasn't as active, and it wasn't really until you start looking at really putting in robust systems, so that stuff just happened anyway, so it wouldn't become much of an issue. But yeah, I completely get it. It's strange that, isn't it? When things feel tighter, you tend to take action, and the stuff you do sometimes you maybe overthink it when you don't have pressure on, so you don't do it. But when you have a that pressure, when someone's pulling that lever on you to do something, like you get it done. I think that's probably what makes the difference in a good business person and not. When it needs to get done, it gets done. I think that's the same with kind of what happened recently with you the other week with the floods thing. Like what needed to get done got done. I know people that would have had that and would have cancelled the summits, would have stopped doing stuff. And I know people that would have done that. I think you didn't. You just got on with it and got it done. And I think that's the difference between a good entrepreneur and maybe somebody that's not quite got it yet. I don't want to use the X factor word, but that's what I'm going to go for.
What do you think though about if it was the first catastrophe that's happened to you? It's kind of okay to freeze, but that also leads you in good stead for future ones to come? Or do you think the great people are the ones that doesn't matter if it's their first or 20th, they know how to battle that situation?
Oh, that's a good question. That is. I think it depends on the situation. I think it's okay to. I think the ability to deal with situations that are put in front of you comes with practice. It's like anything, like stress, for example. Everyone has a stress tolerance. So the more you are put in front of it, the better your stress tolerance is. The less you're away from it, the less your stress tolerance is. And everybody's can change over time. Exactly kind of what you said a minute ago about cash flow. Like when I think the reason we don't react to stuff too quickly when everything's going well is because we just relax and we're like, oh, our tolerance gets lower. And I think that has something to do with it as well. So I think, yes, being exposed, the first time you're exposed to an absolute catastrophe, it must feel awful. And I think, yes, you will freeze for a bit and hopefully you'll get your way through it. It does depend on the level of the catastrophe. If your catastrophe is so big, it's literally going to go wipe out your business, then you haven't got much choice about it. You're either going to make it or you're not. And I think that's just unlucky. But yeah, I think people who have the ability to deal with it will probably deal with that stuff better. But I don't think it's the end of the world if it's your first time. It is going to feel bad. It is going to feel shitty. But hopefully, as long as it's not that big of a disaster, it wipes out your business completely, then I think you'll be okay.
Hey guys, we're going to take a real quick break here now.
Awesome. Thanks, Dave. So if you're loving this episode and want to listen more often, then please make sure that you like and subscribe by clicking one of the buttons around wherever you're listening or watching this right now.
Perfect. Cheers for that, Ash. Let's get back to the episode. So we have shock, and then what were the other three stages that you mentioned a minute ago?
So we had shock, anger, action, and opportunity.
So we've done shock and we've done anger. Let's move into that third stage now then.
Action. So I think this is the key thing. I think once you've got past that shock, you're dealing with the fact you've been angry with yourself or the situation or whatever it is. They said the quicker you get through that, the better it will be. But then we get to action. This is really, I think, where you have to kind of prioritize what you've got to do first. And we've kind of alluded to this already. The first step is that damage control. What can you do to mitigate the immediate danger or the immediate damage so it doesn't get worse? So in the case of the flood, get all the stuff out there as quick as possible. In case of like Stripe going out there, okay, let's stop taking payments through Stripe. Let's find a different way of taking payments for now so we can deal with that situation so we're not going to compound it. Whatever that situation is, that should be the first thing to do, I think, is very quickly take purposeful action and stop the situation from getting worse. It's like plugging the leak, for example, turning the water off. Whatever you need to do that's what you have to go and do first. There's no point fixing a burst pipe in the gym if your water's still running out. So you deal with those situations first as quick as possible. Then you start thinking, okay, how can I now get things back on the even keel again? So maybe we could use, what did you do with the gym? So let's use the flood as an example. So once you got in there, you dealt with the immediate stuff, you got all the stuff out of it. What was your next steps based on what happened? How did you get work running again?
It'd probably better if we do the gym because the office, the landlords took over from there. But like I say, when the gym got flooded, first thing to do was try and locate the water off tap. Because just seeing what you were saying there, you kind of have to prioritize these tasks in order. Messaging clients to tell them not to come in tomorrow while there's water still gushing out isn't the best step. Trying to save equipment while the water is still gushing out probably isn't the best step. So you kind of, like you're saying, you have to make this list and prioritize them as the most important factor first. And like if it was Stripe payments, just cancel all future payments. Don't try and reach out to other merchants and set up Stripe and all this other stuff and letting payments still go out to Stripe. You want to cancel all those Stripes so Stripe can't hold your money back. And then you reach out to clients and let them know, unfortunately, we've got to change payments. That's why your money probably didn't come out earlier today or yesterday. This is what we're going to do. Because the more you kind of let the main reason keep going, the water keep flooding, Stripe keep taking money, the longer you're going to be in that big situation. So you should know quite quickly what that main priority task is. Like you should know. If a client hurt themselves in the gym, you don't start phoning everybody else and let them know all your sessions are cancelled on later while that person injured. You help that person first. You deal with that situation. And then you start letting people know, unfortunately, there's no sessions tonight because we've had a few issues down at the gym. So I think we all would know what that big thing to stop first or the big thing to fix first. And then it's just prioritizing everything else in the correct order. So stopping any money going out into Stripe or stopping Stripe take payments, then notifying your clients, then finding another way. You know what I mean? Notifying clients and finding another way. You could probably swap those around, but you just don't want Stripe to take any more money because they're just going to keep holding it longer and longer.
Yeah, you've got to stop that initial problem, mate. You've got to stop the bleeding. It's no different to triaging if anyone's on a first aid course and things like that. If someone's bleeding out or someone's not breathing, you deal with that first. If someone's bleeding out, you deal with that one. There's no point trying to fix a broken toe if someone's not breathing. So like it's the same principle here. You've got to focus on the biggest things first to deal with it. And I think just like you say there, most of the time it's obvious because you know what the problem is. You've been told what the problem is. That's why you're in that situation in the first place. And then I agree. You've got to kind of prioritize on what you're going to go and do next. That interestingly enough, there I quite like it, like finding the stop tap and things like that. I find that quite interesting because I think there are some things you can do to mitigate some risk in certain situations. Now, obviously, flooding's a big example, but for example, knowing where your stop tap is. So we've just moved house. We're coming to a new property. One of the first things I did when I came in here was look for where the stop tap was. So I'm like, if I drill into a wall and shoot that, drill through a pipe by accident or something like that, then there's water squirting everywhere. What am I going to do? I need to go and stop it. And weirdly enough, you said about situations beforehand. The reason I was so anal about finding out this time is because the last time we bought a new property, the actual pressure hose underneath the tap in the sink upstairs came off. The water went everywhere. We had no idea how to turn the water off. It was only because it was on the new build estate back there. And we ran outside, found the builders, and they shut it off the mains into the house. That was the only way it stopped. So
yeah,
you learn a lesson from them.
Because like, I wouldn't have thought about looking for. Now, obviously, once this episode finishes, I'm going to run outside now and try and locate my stop tap. But that's not something I would have thought of first. You know what I mean? So I don't feel bad on yourselves for not thinking of that because that only happens to people who have been through that situation before. Although, yeah, the gym flooded because of a burst tap. I kind of just knew I would need to turn the stop tap off, but there is going to be situations, and I know you were saying there about, I think you mentioned first aid, but let's say you've been rock climbing or something like that and someone's fallen because a boulder has fallen. Sometimes you also need to think about the other situations as well. So the first thing is go and check if that person's okay, but we need to take a step back sometimes. Like, if it's because boulders are falling, then we need to make sure that we're safe to be able to go in there first. If someone's been electrocuted, then you don't want to give them CPR first if they're still attached to the electrical cord. That's what we need to remove first. So, yeah, it's you only in the situation you will be able to figure out what those steps are. But sometimes there is something, there will be from time to time other situations that you need to fix first. Like if that water tap was directly going at your super expensive computer or something like that,
Yeah, you move your computer.
you would snag that first, then turn the water off, even though the situation probably says turn the water off first, but then that's your livelihood going out the window for a good couple of weeks. Yeah, it's one of those tricky ones. Only you will know in that situation what is the best course of action, depending on the situation you find yourself in. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's weird that you talk about it, isn't it? Because it is going to be so different for every situation. And I also think as well, the more exposure you have to those kind of situations, the probably easier it becomes to deal with, because you learn to not relax into it, but go, okay, I've got to deal with it. I think it goes back to exactly what you were saying earlier on. You have to get through that shock and anger phase quickly, because shock and anger takes you away from that ability to assess that situation quickly. And I think that's what you need to do. Like, calm down, quickly assess the situation and go, okay, what do I need to go and deal with first? And then you're talking seconds here normally, and then make that decision to deal with that completely. Is it safe to deal with it? Can I go deal with that situation? For just like you said with the rock climbing one, I could actually give you a perfect example of this. Years and years ago, was in the Lake District, and I've been out there for the week, and then my parents came up, and my brother came up to come meet us for the weekend. It was a bank holiday weekend, and anyone that you've obviously lived in North Wales, so you'll know what it's like bank holiday weekend with people coming out, weekend warriors. Like, it gets so busy on the hills and the mountains. And some younger, about maybe 19, 20, they decided to climb up a gully which was notorious in the area for loose rockfall. And they went up that gully, even though they shouldn't have done. It's on the map and everything, saying you should never go up it. They went up it, someone dislodged the log, came down, whacked them on the head, split their skull, and they were just sat on there. And you hear them screaming. I can remember coming down. We just finished coming off the Scarfell in the lakes, and I saw them screaming. They had blood on them and everything. They said, "Oh, my friends died. My friends died." They hadn't, luckily, but that's what they said. So I ended up having to go up. But when I realised where they're at, I had to change my approach of going into it, because I couldn't just walk into this gully, because I would have been exposing myself to that same risk. And I think that's the kind of thing you have to do in those situations. You have to go head on and deal with it, but you also have to make sure you're constantly assessing what's going on to make sure you can deal with those initial problems. And then once you've made that situation as safe as you can do, and you've dealt with the initial problem, which was stopping the rock fall, keep people safe in that example, then you can then start dealing with it, which is, okay, now this person who has got blood coming out of their ears and their head's full open, like, I can now deal with that person. But I couldn't do that first, because there were 6 other people sat in a gully with me trying to get in there with loose rock, and they weren't protected or anything. So there's exactly what you said there. You have to deal with those situations first and figure it out as you go. Otherwise, it's difficult, because it's going to be different for every situation. There's no right or wrong answer. But I think the important thing is get through that shock phase, get through that anger phase as quick as possible, and then start assessing and taking action as quick as you can do to deal with it.
And the final step?
The final bit was opportunity. Now, I always think this is a weird one, because I always think every situation you get yourself into, there's an opportunity to be made from it. I honestly do. And it could be such a minor opportunity. It could be something else. It could be anything. But there's definitely things you can leverage from it. Again, I used the example earlier on with the new BBC Wales coming down, the interview down there. That would have been some level of exposure that people would have known about. And that meant you got more exposure through social media because of it. So you got more reach from it out of there, which means that could also help you with more sales that you might get in the future. So there's always opportunities you can take advantage of, I think, out of these situations. Most situations, anyway.
Yeah, maybe not at that moment in time. You will see the situation and like you see the opportunities from it. But as the days go by and it's settled in, you've processed everything. Like you say, you've gone through the shock, the anger, the actions, and now you're kind of, okay. But don't think opportunity as in always to develop or grow or anything like that. It could be locating the stop tap.
Yeah,
I now know where that stop tap is for next time. You know, if a flood was to happen again, maybe I should angle the floor differently so it seeps out a different side. I've Stripe have held my payments, then maybe I should use 2 different processing accounts or 2 different Stripe accounts. So the front end money goes in one and the back end money goes into another. Like, opportunity might sound like the wrong. There must be
maybe the wrong word.
yeah,
It's
because
yeah.
opportunity sounds like it's something you're going to benefit or gain from, which is the situation, but it's not.
Probably not quite the right word. It's like, it can be a learning opportunity. It's basically you're learning something from it. That's the idea. So
Yeah, maybe
it
that's
can be that
yeah.
you've gained something from it. It could be that you've learned something from it. I think the reason I use the word opportunity is because I try and think of a learning opportunity or an opportunity to gain something from it.
Yeah.
I can't really think of a better word to use. Maybe we'll come up with one day. Pop it in the. If anyone comes up with a better word that's listening to this, just pop it in the comments. But hopefully you get the idea of what we're talking about here. I think any situation you go into, there should be something you can gain from it, whether that's new knowledge, new experience, new systems, new processes, new whatever it is, or something you can leverage to help your business as well. Like, I think if you go through any situation, you don't learn something from it, you don't gain something from it, then I think it's a wasted opportunity. it's a wasted opportunity because there's always something to be learned. Again, using the stop tap thing, our house pipe blew, water went everywhere. I now understand. I must understand where my things are in my house. I must understand where my stop tap is so I can turn it off. I would never do that if it weren't for the fact it happened beforehand. So I managed to learn something from it. Well, I don't want to do is running out onto the street going, somebody help. I don't know how to turn the water off.
On that point, though, although, yeah, Ash had the water and he's going to locate it, and the next house moves into, he's going to locate it. I think you would be a fool if you didn't do that stuff now.
Yeah.
So if Stripe took your money and you did nothing about it, you'd be like, oh yeah, they're going to sort it out in a month's time. I'll just keep using that same Stripe account because, yeah, just whatever. I think going in with that attitude, or not even attitude, just not taking it seriously, it is just going to happen again. We don't want it to happen again, but if it's happened once, there's nothing to say it's not going to happen the second, third, or fourth time. And like you say, if you've had that water leak now, that first time in the house, and it like almost ruined the upstairs of your house, and then as it starts working its way downstairs as well, you would be a complete fool not to figure out where the stop tap was, just in case it happened to this next house. Or like in the gym, if everyone kept taking the plates off the rigs and they kept dropping them on their toes because you were putting the 20 kilos up high, and you just kept putting the 20 kilos up high, and it just kept happening. Like, you have no reason to get it happen again, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? You would be a fool not to learn some sort of lesson from everything that happens.
Wasn't it that famous? I can't remember. I want to say Einstein. It might not be Einstein, but there's someone that said that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. I think it's that basic principle. If you don't change anything from that situation, then you're going to get the same result next time that situation happens. So if you don't like the result of that situation, you need to change something to make sure that situation doesn't happen again. So if you can learn something from what happened beforehand to deal with it, like you say, it would be quite foolish not to learn from that situation.
And hopefully you're not one of those people listening to this call that doesn't do anything about that situation. The people that are not watching this are probably those people.
Yeah, probably. If you're watching this, hopefully you're all good. Cool. Well, I think that's a perfect way to round up today's session.
Yeah. Just on a slightly completely different topic then. Me and Ash were talking about maybe doing like a 2-day retreat, workshop, seminar type of thing where we would literally help you launch and build a complete online fitness business. If this is something that you would be interested in, let us know. Like I say, it is going to be a 2-day thing. So whether it be here in the UK or abroad, somewhere like that, but it will be a full-on 8-hour, 16-hour setup over 2 days to really help you build and launch an online fitness business. So if that is something you are interested in, do reach out to one of us, and we are starting to put plans in place. And obviously, Ash said earlier, if it's 6 months away, he won't wait. He'll wait until the day before.
Yeah, so let's not do that. Let's make it
I
quite
will,
soon.
I will take charge of this situation and chase. We'll talk about it at the end of every episode.
Yeah, definitely. We'll keep mentioning it in every episode so it actually happens, so it feels like it's happening. But yeah, I think this, like Dave said, there'll be a 2-day event. It'll be do some theoretical stuff, but then actual doing things. So you'll sit there, you'll be there, your laptops will get stuff done. So you will walk away with an online business ready to go. That's the idea. So yeah, if it's something you're interested in, just reach out, get in touch with us. And then yeah, if there's enough interest, we will make it happen.
Nice. Guys, appreciate you all for listening and watching as usual. If you have any questions, as do reach out to one of us, and we'll see you all on next week's episode. Yeah, it's not that close to Christmas, yeah, is it? It'll be the 30th.
Sure. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us on this week's episode of the FitPro Social. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on future episodes.